It's time for the Sonic Mania review for the Nintendo Switch. Retro Sonic games are super nostalgic for me. While I didn't have much experience playing or watching Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or 2, I remember playing the heck out of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It wasn't even on the Genesis, but rather on PC. Does this game unlock that same wondrous feeling of speeding my way through level after level? Let's find out. Before you begin the main game, you can choose which character to play as: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or Sonic with Tails. With this last option, a second player can play as Tails and tag along with Sonic. It's not designed to be a great co-op experience as the camera will only follow Sonic, but it can still be fun in the right situations. I've beaten the game with every character, and while there are advantages to playing as Tails and Knuckles, a solo run with Sonic is my favorite. Tails has the same storyline as Sonic, and in the beginning of their playthrough, we see them head towards Angel Island. Upon arriving, they quickly come across Robotnik and his robots capturing a jewel from the island. The jewel suddenly activates a mysterious power, and your character ends up on Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1, and your adventure begins. Knuckles has a different perspective of the incident, but ends up at the beginning of Green Hill Zone as well. The point is to guide your character from the far left side of the map to the end of the level on the far right in under 10 minutes, all the while defeating enemies, avoiding traps, and collecting rings. Only those who played at least one of the 5 major 2D Sonic titles from the 90s will you smile with nostalgia. To everyone else, you'll still enjoy the game, but you won't notice the references, such as most of the levels, or zones as they're called, are reimagined from Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic & Knuckles, and Sonic CD. Even if you've inspected every inch of the original zones, Mania's versions aren't one-to-one, and it's fun finding out the differences in each. There are a handful of original zones too, which is good as I feel this needed to be a part of the game. Every zone isn't a straight shot to the end, as there are many different optional paths to take, each holding surprises to find. While Sonic and Tails have the same level layout, Tails has more route options as he can temporarily fly and access different areas. Sonic can access some of these areas as well, but he'll usually need assistance via Tails carrying him to these locations. If done correctly, it's possible for Sonic to get to optional routes using his shield abilities, but Tails has the best advantage in reaching these areas. Knuckles can reach some of these routes due to his gliding and climbing abilities and being able to easily knock down breakable walls. In fact, there are a few select routes that only Knuckles can access, and the area itself is designed for Knuckles' gameplay. Don't feel too bad for Sonic. While he may not have easy access to certain areas like the other two, he has his own special techniques Tails and Knuckles can't take advantage of. His native ability is his drop dash. By holding jump in midair, Sonic will charge up and burst forward in his spin dash form when he hits the ground. I couldn't help but feel like I wanted his insta-shield ability from Sonic 3, and thankfully you can change his ability to this, but changing abilities is actually an unlockable that I'll talk about later. To add to Sonic's arsenal, as I pointed out earlier, Sonic gains a specific ability depending on the type of shield he obtains. While a Bubble Shield, Fire Shield, and Electric Shield will respectively give all characters the ability to breathe underwater, become immune to fire and magma, and magnetize rings and become invulnerable to electricity, Sonic gains a unique ability the others don't receive. With a Bubble Shield, Sonic can perform a Super Bounce, especially effective if using it on an enemy. A Fire Shield will let Sonic burst forward as a fireball, annihilating enemies in his path, and an Electric Shield will grant Sonic a lesser double jump. There is the regular shield from Sonic 1, but this doesn't do anything special and is just a normal shield that prevents one hit. There's a part of me that actually doesn't like to get the regular shield when playing as Sonic because it stupidly takes away his native ability. Knuckles is honestly the most difficult character to play as because of one detail that might not be too noticeable in the beginning, but if you've played Sonic and Knuckles, you might remember it sooner than later. While Sonic and Tails can jump at the same height as each other, Knuckles' jump is just a bit smaller than the other two. This can make reaching certain areas a chore, especially if you're used to the jump height of the other two. It's not like it's game breaking, but in certain areas it can be kind of a pain to get him up to where you want him to go. As I said earlier, Knuckles can take certain routes the others can't, and actually, one of the entire levels is different for Knuckles. This goes for the boss fight as well. I like this as it broke up the similarities shared between all 3 characters. Throughout each level are various checkpoints. If you have at least 25 rings and pass through a checkpoint, you can enter a special stage. Here, you must run over all the blue spheres in the stage while avoiding the red ones. If you can manage to do so, you'll be rewarded with a medallion that serves as the basis for unlocking content in the game. The other special stage can be found by finding large gold rings semi-hidden throughout the zones. Once entered, you're brought to an area where the goal is to catch up to a UFO carrying a Chaos Emerald. These special stages can be quite difficult, but oh so satisfying when you finally obtain that last emerald. The graphics look fantastic. I appreciate the developers went with the retro look instead of modern, which I'm sure older Sonic fans like myself really enjoy. The music, like the reimagined zones, is super nostalgic, however they've been remixed a bit and aren't exactly like their original soundtracks. They still sound great, with Flying Battery Zone Act 1 and Lava Reef Zone Act 2 being some of my favorites. The boss fights ranged from a bit boring, I'm sad to say, to fairly difficult, with a few of them being quite creative. Hydra City Act 1 boss fight was especially fun. Time Attack is available to see how fast you can get through an act, as well as a couple local multiplayer options, such as racing through a zone and playing against each other with Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Sonic Mania oozes nostalgia and grants an exhilarating gameplay experience. It's especially appealing for gamers who have played at least one of the classic Sonic games, but even if you haven't done so, you won't have a problem running around at the speed of sound. Well, you know what I mean. This game gets a 4.25 out of 5 with the title of Awesome!